Welcome to East Coast DNA. This is
Darcy.
And I'm his brother Andrew. We're a couple of East Coast brothers bringing you music, news, and interviews. And with us today we have Kari Lyn, originally from North Rustico, PEI. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
And this is our second episode since Nova Scotia Music Week, and we're hitting the other maritime provinces. We hit New Brunswick last week, PEI this week, Newfoundland next week, and mixing it up a little bit because we kind of really focused on Nova Scotia and made us look a little biased towards Nova Scotia, but that was just because there was an event going on. So we're going to spread it out more and show some more love to the other provinces, even though she's not in PEI right now, but she's from PEI. Surrounded by music your whole life, storytelling, which sounds very East Coast, if you ask me. I saw in your bio that your grandfather was a storyteller and you always had music around you your whole life. But then you went 5 years of traveling, backpacking around the world. What inspired you to do that? And what did you get out of that? That's a huge growing up experience. Like, how old were you when you started doing the backpacking?
I started when I was 19. I did 1 year of university, decided that I didn't want to be a French teacher, and just dropped everything. Went on a 3-month trip to Thailand. Loved it so much that I came home, saved all my money, and just left again. And then just kept doing it, pretty much until COVID started.
Oh.
So, yeah. So it lasted a lot longer than that 3-month trip, but I definitely learned a lot. And the end thing that I really learned from traveling was that music is all I love and that I really want to pursue music because it's what I like to do. And it inspired my debut album, Hit the Ground, which was nominated for a Music PEI award when that came out a few years ago. And then now I'm finally out with some new music.
And Hit the Ground came out the summer of the pandemic beginning.
Yes.
How much did you have done before the pandemic, or did you get that all done that 3-month window?
We did most of it before the pandemic. I was flying back and forth from Toronto to PEI because I was recording in PEI, but I was starting school in Ontario, so I was kind of going back and forth to finish that. And we finished everything that I kind of needed to do before the pandemic. And then Remy Arsenault, he was my producer, and he did the rest of it.
Okay.
So is it school or the music scene keeping you in Toronto now that restrictions are looser?
It's kind of the music scene now. I graduated in November, actually. So I graduated almost a year ago.
Okay.
And then I've had some opportunities in Toronto that have kind of kept me here in the music industry. So I'm going back and forth a lot more often, though, now that things are open up. But for some reason, my gigs just keep getting canceled every time I'm back on the East Coast for various reasons, tornadoes, hurricanes.
Everything.
We've had everything the last few years, everything you could possibly imagine, I believe.
Yeah. So when you fly back home, you're recording at a studio back in PEI?
So this single I actually recorded in my bedroom. And there's a closet right behind me. We made that into an ISO booth, and it actually worked out great because we were recording in my school studio, and the sound here sounded better than the studio for some reason. So pretty happy with it.
Lots of people use our closet. I know Matt Pat from Game Theory and Film Theory and Food Theory, all that stuff. He still records in his closet, and he's got 3 huge, like, millions of followers on YouTube in the closet. That's where he records his audio, and it works, right? So.
I actually have a very large closet right. I could almost touch it from where I'm at, that I probably could move the entire studio into that if I really
there you go.
got ambitious.
Your own giant sound booth.
Yeah.
And I assume you do your songwriting playing acoustically, mostly?
Yes, I do.
And then when you record, I hear the acoustic in there. Is that you playing the acoustic on your recordings as well?
Some of them we dubbed over with my friend Devin. He played a few of the acoustic on the final tracks, but a lot of it is my self playing. Yeah.
And then you have like session players filling in the rest, or are you playing those as well? Like the drums and the lead guitar?
Session players for the drums and the lead guitar, but any of the MIDI stuff was between me and my producer because I play piano as well. So we did a lot of that kind of MIDI stuff together.
Because I love the lead guitar tone in that album. Like every time it kicks in, I'm like, yes. Just
in the new song or the old one?
in the older ones, yeah.
In the old one, actually, that was all Remy Arsenault.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so he's so talented.
Mm-hmm.
He did all of the background music except for the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So
I remember I saw him play one time after the pandemic in Charlottetown, and he played the bass with a beer bottle.
Oh, really?
Cool.
That just shows his talent. He's so amazing.
Like mixing slide and bass together, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You must have worked with a few other known people throughout PEI as well, despite being Toronto located now. I noticed in your press kit too, there was some quotes from some other musicians. I caught Catherine McLennan's name once.
Yeah, I got to open for her when Music PEI did their I think it was called tiny concerts or something like that, where it was kind of all from home, but we all kind of synced together and played. So I got to open for Catherine. And that's just a little tidbit that she said about me, congratulating me on the performance. So that was really fun. Hopefully I'll get to actually work with her in person soon. But I've also worked with one of her guitar players a lot as well, Nick Gauche. He's another amazing guitar player.
I think they actually are just local show here. As the time that this airs, like the other people are watching this, I think they just played in Pictou.
Yeah, they're doing a little Christmas tour.
Yeah, part of that. Yeah,
so if you're listening in Pictou County, you missed it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll try to put a little post up on our social media.
Yeah. And I noticed on the recordings, you kind of have the same kind of feel throughout the album. It really flows well as an album. And then I was checking out some stuff on YouTube, and I found the Dark Side remix, and it does not have the same feel as the rest of the album. Was that you that remixed as well?
I worked with one of my classmates at Harris Institute for that one. I wanted to get a more dancey song out there. And so many of my friends loved Dark Side. So I said, why not throw an electronic spin on it and get some more people being able to listen to it when they're trying to get more pumped up.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of for fun. We kind of just threw that together, and I put it out just to kind of expand my reach and see what happened and collaborate.
And you mentioned that it's on the video that you recorded that just on your own with a light in your apartment. The video?
Yeah, the video. So what happened is I had all these plans for the release of the song, and then the day before the release, I got tested positive for COVID. So anything that I had planned in terms of marketing or going out and recording videos obviously had to be canceled. And when you're stuck alone, I live by myself in your apartment for 10 days, this is when you still had to quarantine for 10 days, you can get pretty creative. So what I ended up doing is I took a bicycle lamp and I propped it up on my COVID tests. And I pointed it at the wall here behind me and just made the music video.
And if you didn't mention that it was self-made, you wouldn't know. It looks like it's professionally made. So it's amazing what you can do just with a phone camera or whatever camera and lighting in your own apartment now. So
it's crazy.
So with the new EP, are you venturing more towards that side or just a little outside your box of what the first album was?
Yeah, the new EP is definitely a little bit more diverse, but it's still folk rock. I find I'm getting more towards the rock side a little bit, but still that folk songwriting. I definitely am still keeping that because, as we said earlier, songwriting's kind of in my blood. I love telling stories in my songs.
Yeah. And you just released Daylight a couple days ago, last week. Exactly
a week ago, as we're recording this.
And there's a mention of duality between the songs. Daylight and Nightmarish.
Yeah, so the whole idea kind of came because of the contrast between my first album, where I was traveling the world and experiencing so many new things, to this new EP where I was stuck in my room and literally could not leave. So it was just kind of the different of emotions, and I wanted to show my growth as an artist. So I really kind of sat down and chose a variety of songs that showcased my range in my songwriting and myself as an artist. The song that already came out, Daylight, was kind of a last minute addition, but it kind of just came to me while I was in school and I was sitting at home with a glass of whiskey stuck in my apartment and was thinking about how I kind of missed my own life, or my old life, excuse me, and how I know I was better off. I was here pursuing my music dreams, even though I was stuck in my apartment. I was still moving forward with my career. And then Daylight was born. And when I showed it to my friends and other music fans, they were like, "Why were you hiding this for so long? Like, why didn't you just show anybody?" But that one, so that one's out already. The next one will be out in January. It's called Anyways. It's a song about, it's a lot lighter, so it kind of gets that contrast, but it's about how I know that my father would be proud of me and what I'm doing with my life and how he's watching from above.
Was he a musician as well? Did he inspire part of your musician?
He used to always say the only instrument he plays is the radio.
Yeah.
But he was very supportive of me and myself for following my music career and following my dreams, and he loved music. So even though he didn't play, he was always really passionate about the arts.
Even playing the radio is still an inspiration for a music career.
Of course.
Like we mentioned on like the first episode of this podcast that we really love music mainly because our parents loved music and it was always around us. It was always music everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and it still is.
It's so I'm assuming your grandfather is where the Acadian roots part comes from. And he's also probably a strong influence for your music too, because he was also a musician.
So he wasn't a musician, but he was always telling stories. So he actually discovered the shipwreck of the Marco Polo off the coast of Prince Edward Island.
Oh, cool.
So he was kind of famous in Prince Edward Island and anyone in the shipwreck community. So he was always like on interviews, talking with like National Geographic and all of those platforms, telling stories. And he was kind of just known all around PEI for those stories that he told, because he was a fisherman and he just had the best stories. And I grew up just going over to his house and listening to them. And that really inspired myself to write. And then all of a sudden I just started turning those into songs. A lot of people on that side of the family, they do play music. Like my uncle Leon, he plays in the local Cayley all the time. A lot of people know who he is. Not Lenny, Leon Gallant. A lot of people mix those two up. I'm sure I'm related to Lenny somehow as well, but as my mom was a Gallant. But
fair.
You know, Prince Edward Island, we've got about 5 last names, and I've got 4 of them in my family.
I think just at Music Week last week, if you pick a name like that and look, there's like 5 or 6 people that have the same last name. It's just everyone.
Yeah. I've got Goche, Jurong, Blackear, and Gallant in my grandparents. So
there you go. Diverse.
I've got the whole Acadianness in my family.
So you were also studying to be a French teacher, and you even mentioned the Acadian roots in your bio. So I'm curious. We had a couple recent guests that are primarily English, but they're experimenting with some French music because they're bilingual. So I'm assuming you could do the same thing. Have you explored that option at all?
I've written a few songs in French, but I wasn't super happy with how they turned out, as I don't get as much of an opportunity to speak French anymore. But it's definitely something I would do in the future. Like I'd love to collaborate with someone who is like a French artist, so I could kind of get that confidence to write.
Go through our episodes. So there's a couple of recent ones. So.
I'll definitely have to go.
I'm not going to give you the names. You have to go watch them and figure out which ones.
I'll watch every single one.
There you go.
But yeah, definitely in the future, I'd like to do that. And I also, in my travels, learned Spanish. So Spanish is something I would love to write in Spanish as well someday.
Like La Bamba.
Cool. Yeah, I just like to see the diversity options, especially where we're focused on a region. I like to see what everyone's doing because we've never been genre based, but we don't. Andrew and I are not going to do a whole podcast in French for sure. But if we're talking to some people in English that have some French songs, we would like to try to cover some of that in the future too. So if you ever have anything out, you'll have to reach out to us and let us know.
I will let you know for sure.
Much like
I
you
think-
didn't want to be a French teacher, I didn't want to listen to a French teacher.
Yes.
That is fair.
So, online, what's the best place to find you online? What's your most popular platform, I guess?
Probably Instagram. It's at Kari Lyn Music, Karilyn Music. Is probably the easiest, but I'm pretty active on all social medias, as you kind of have to be these days.
Mm-hmm. And
Bandcamp for purchasing, or you prefer streaming, or?
I am on Bandcamp. I don't have much of a following on there because I didn't understand it for the longest time.
Sure.
But I am on Bandcamp, and I'm on all streaming as well. So you can find me everywhere in that sense.
And before we lose you there too, I have one question since you are Toronto-based. I did this when Altered by Mum was through. We do companion playlists to go with the episodes too. And I do have a couple different East Coast artists that I was going to try to slot in with you that are thematically the same or maybe a closer sound. So I'm also curious, since you're in a different region, what other up and coming bands, maybe some people that you've been performing with or that have opened for you, that you've opened for recently, just some of the smaller bands that maybe some people down the East Coast haven't heard of yet.
Yeah, of course. One of my favorite things to do is go out and watch some of these amazing local artists that are in Toronto, because there's so many talented people. One of my favorites, and they're more of a rock vibe than I am, Harmonies. They're doing really well right now. They're doing a lot of Toronto shows. One of my really good friends, Alessandro Montanelli, he's doing great right now. Sky Wallace, I think she's played a lot on the East Coast. As we mentioned, Altered by Mom. Some of her bandmates are part of that band as well. Crown Lands, is getting really big, but a lot of the East Coast don't really know them yet. And Asanabi is my new favorite Indigenous artist. His record's behind me. He's an amazing person. He just put out his debut record last week. I think the same day my single came out, maybe. And he just got CBC's top artist of the year, so he's going to be on the lookout.
Yeah, he was actually, from that episode we had him on the playlist, and I was kind of following him since then. So yeah, I'll definitely be able to grab some new songs from all of those artists. So
yeah, awesome. I met him at an open mic, and he's also the kindest person you'll ever meet. So
awesome. That's great to hear.
And do you have any shows coming up you want to promote?
I do have a show tomorrow for anyone in Toronto, but this won't be out by then, I don't think.
No.
Too much for a flight for the show.
Yeah, But I'm going to be booking some more PEI gigs in the new year. So just keep a lookout on those.
So go follow her on Instagram and watch for that to happen. And if you're looking for us, you can find a link tree down in the description or in the show notes. Everything's in there. We have Twitter in there. It's smelling kind of musky over there. Or YouTube, go over there, subscribe. Lots of videos on there. Plus every episode of the podcast is on there. Most of them have videos. At the beginning they didn't. And if you're watching on Spotify, we have a video on there as well, and every other podcast service you can think of. If it's not on the podcast service you can think of, send us a message and we will make it available on that podcast streaming service.
I challenge somebody to find somewhere that it's not and send it to us. I'd like to find out where it is.
Yeah, exactly. But for now, we're going to play out with Daylight. And we'll see you all in a couple weeks. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
To call you back, even though I can't do that, 'cause you're gone, boy, you're gone. Nighttime is followed by another drink. I just don't know what to think this time, 'cause when I go to sleep, I don't know what to think. My head is spinning, heart is beating, mind is turning, love is churning. love affair. I'll go around like I don't care. Passion burning, soul is aching, bones are hurting. I'm still learning, I'm still learning, I'm still learning. Wasted time, I know that I've wasted mine. Days just to thinking about you, but you're on my mind. And when a thought does arrive, I don't diss it, I welcome it. 'Cause when I go to sleep, I don't know what to think. My head is spinning, heart is beating, mind is turning, love is churning. Like any good love affair, I'll go around like I don't care. Passion's burning, soul is aching, bones are hurting. I'm still learning, I'm still learning, I'm still learning. The torture doesn't ever leave my soul, only ever leaves my lips. From a midnight lonely